Well, hi everyone, and welcome to the UC Davis Extension SPHR PHR Preparation Course Information Session. I have a quick agenda to go over with you today so you know what's in store for you. The intent of this session is really to help you decide if this class is a good fit for you, and also if you're currently enrolled to help you understand the focus of the class. And then, of course, answer any questions that you might have about the course or the HRCI tests. Exams. So we'll start by giving an overview of the HRCI certification levels. We'll discuss specifics of our test prep course, and then we're going to end with time for questions and answers. We will start by introducing ourselves. My name is Crystal Babawal, and I'm one of the program leads for this course and our Human Resource Management Certificate program. And I'm joined on this information session by my colleague, Heather Ogle.
Hey guys, I know I've been emailing with a few of you. Good to see you.
We also have online today the instructor for our course, Julie Worley. Hi, Julie.
Hello.
So you'll be hearing equally probably from Julie and I throughout the session. And then towards the end of the session, one of our former students who took the course last August and passed with her PHR in December, Kari will be online to give us a little inside perspective of what it was like to be a student in the class and what it was like when she went to take that HRCI exam. So Kari is online, and you'll be hearing from Kari a little bit later as well. So to start off this information session, what we'd like to know is, are you currently enrolled in the test prep course? We offered this information session to both students who were currently enrolled or students who were thinking about enrolling in the program but hadn't yet enrolled in the class. So either you're enrolled, or maybe you are planning to enroll, or maybe you're just here kind of gathering information. We'd love to know where you are and who we're speaking with today on this session. Awesome. As you guys are, we're collecting your results here. I see that most of you are currently enrolled in the class, but a few of you are here to find out if this is going to be a good class for you to enroll in. So either way, we're really excited to have you here today with us. Thank you. So one of the things I wanted to start with was the different HRCI credentials. So I'm assuming that you're familiar with HRCI, which stands for the Human Resource Certificate Institute, but you might or might not know that there are 7 different certifications that HRCI offers. One thing I thought was really interesting is that of these 7 credentials, 95% of HRCI credentialed professionals have one of these 3. The APHR, the PHR, or the SPHR. So as you can see, there are lots of others, the GPHR, the SPHRI, but again, these 3 are 95% of credentialed professionals have one of these 3. So we're going to dive into each of these 3 and talk about them a little bit more so that you can make sure you know which certification, which credential would be the best for you. I'm going to start by talking about the APHR, which stands for the Associate Professional in Human Resources. Now, the APHR is the newest of all the HRCI credentials, and this credential launched in April of 2016. So it's just over 2 years old, but it already has 2,338 credential holders. The kind of main characteristic of the APHR is that it's designed for HR professionals who are just beginning their HR career journey. Unlike the other HRCI credentials, which measure both knowledge and practice-based experience, so education and work experience, the APHR is just focused on knowledge. So for example, if you are a career changer and you're new to the HR field and you don't have a lot of work experience, but you have some education that's given you some information about HR, maybe you went through a bachelor's program or an associate's program in HR, or maybe you just completed our UC Davis Extension Human Resource Management Certificate program, but have little to no work experience, this would be the right certification for you. this certification is not really, if you were looking at the APHR, this course might not be the right course for you. Again, you might want to be looking at our Human Resource Management Certificate Program as a prelude to the APHR. So if you have questions on that, or that sounds like it fits you and your experience, let us know. We can talk more about that later. Moving on to the PHR, and the PHR, which stands for Professional in Human Resources, is the most popular of the HRCI credentials. In fact, 55% of all credential holders have the PHR designation. The PHR demonstrates your mastery of the technical and operational aspects of HR management. So for PHR, HR professionals, you really want to have experience with program implementation, kind of tactical, logistical orientation with HR, and you would be a person who works in HR and is accountable to another HR professional within the organization. You would have responsibilities that focus on the HR department rather than the whole organization. So to be eligible for the PHR, you must have, as you can see on the screen, at least 1 year of experience in a professional level HR position and a master's degree or higher. Or you must have at least 2 years of work experience in a professional level HR position and a bachelor's degree, or at least 4 years of professional level HR work experience and a high school diploma. So you really want to figure out where you are with your balance of years of work in the industry and education to find the right credential path for you. But remember that eligibility does not necessarily mean you are ready to take the exam, and it doesn't guarantee that you'll pass the exam. So I think that's really important to remember, especially when we dive in and talk about the SPHR. So the SPHR is the Senior Professional in Human Resources, and it's the second most popular credential, with 37% of all credential holders having the SPHR designation. So again, PHR and SPHR are sort of the two most common credentials. And the SPHR really demonstrates your mastery of strategic and policy-making aspects of HR management as practiced in the U.S. If you practice HR outside of the U.S., there is the global certification that you might want to be looking at, but this is really focused, both the PHR and SPHR, on California, on the United States practices of HR. And this credential is really for HR professionals who are big picture thinkers in their role in HR and are responsible for planning rather than implementing HR policy. So to be eligible for the SPHR, you must meet one of the following conditions for education and experience. So you must have at least 4 years of experience in an HR position and a master's degree, or 5 years of experience in an HR position and a bachelor's degree, or 7 years of experience in HR and a high school diploma. So you can see that you must have a lot more years of experience working in the industry as paired with that education. And again, I just want to reiterate that just because you're eligible to take the SPHR doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready to take the exam. Our instructor, Julie, is happy to consult with you one-on-one to really help you guide your decision-making process. But hopefully, coming into this and now after hearing some of this overview, you have a little idea of which certification is right for you. So I'd like to ask you at this time to think about, HRCI recommends that you consider these questions as you make your decision as to which credential is right for you. You know, what level of education have you completed? And was your education in HR or in another field? How many years of professional level HR experience do you have? Do you have experience in all areas of HR or just a few areas of HR? Were you focused on benefits and focused on talent acquisition, or did you have a more generalist role? How much time have you spent practicing each area of HR? And are you leading HR functions and developing strategy? that would be more towards the SPHR route, or are you implementing and managing various elements of HR? So answering those questions will really help you to decide which certification level is right for you. And we'd like to know, given all that information and the research you've done before this, which credential seems like the right fit for you, or which credential do you think that you'll be pursuing? So there's the APHR, as I mentioned, the PHR, the SPHR. You may still be unsure, or there may be a credential that is not one of these three that you're thinking might be a better suit for you. Great. It looks like most of you are looking to go through for the PHR. That's great. A few of you the SPHR, and an even smaller percentage the APHR. So that's wonderful. And we're going to have more information on the different credentials for the PHR and SPHR coming up in this information session. But thank you for letting us know. That's very helpful. As we dive into those additional information that I just mentioned on the two exams, I'm going to actually turn it over to Julie Worley, our instructor, who will talk to you a little bit about some of the updates that have happened. If you've been researching the HRCI certifications for a while, there's some new updates. So Julie's going to help us come up to date on those. Hi, Julie.
Hello, thank you. So recently, as like a month ago, HRCI has revamped their weighting percentages for both the PHR and the SPHR. So you can see on the old side, business management and strategy for PHR was only 11% of your exam. It will now be 20%, and they've changed the names to be more reflective of what's going on in our industry. So some of the questions that will be focused on your test will be weighted on business management, talent planning and acquisition, learning and development, total rewards, and the most heavily weighted for the PHR is the employee and labor relations. You'll notice that risk management is no longer part of the exam. It may be filtered in somewhere else, but it's not called out. What this allows you to do is really focus on all areas, but know that you need to make sure that you're really strong in the labor and employee relations, as well as business management. That's where you're going to get majority of the questions. Nobody knows which questions you're going to get on the exam, but know that this is really important where you're going to be focused on your studying. Can you go to the next slide, please? And the same thing here with the SPHR. Again, it's where we need to focus our study. Majority of the questions that you're going to get is going to be focused on leadership and strategy. 40%, that's a heavy weighted. And then employee relations and engagement. You'll notice that they've really increased those because that's where SPHRs really need to be able to focus when they're in the work environment today. Again, we don't know which questions you're going to get, but you can anticipate majority of the questions are going to fall in these few categories. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what's really beneficial about coming to a prep course is if you haven't taken tests in a while, it's getting you used to how to take tests. We're going to be studying a lot of material. And because we're in California, we have our own California set of rules. And the biggest benefit really is to make sure that we can have good discussion and collaboration from everyone who's in class regarding your experience. The biggest challenge that California practitioners have is removing their California laws, moving that hat off, and knowing that we'll be focusing on federal laws. It also helps us with test tips, how to take the test, what they might be looking for, what are your strategies for studying. It's deadline driven. We have 12 weeks to study a lot of material. So that means you're going to have to be very dedicated and diligent in your reading. It will make class time easier to go through because it's not my style to stand up and regurgitate. what you've already read, but let's enhance it, let's talk about it. If there are theories or things that we disagree with or question, that's the time for all of us to collaborate and work together. And then there's study groups. And those study groups are outside of class. Those are our accountability partners. Some of us may be, if there's 3 or 4 of you that are studying for the SPHR, you would want to be your own group because your studying might be a little different given the areas that you have to focus on. But it's a great time to hold each other accountable and talk through things that maybe going, this doesn't make any sense to me, especially, again, because we practice in California and we have to take that hat off. You can go to the next slide. So the difference with a test prep versus a traditional class, most traditional classes, right, you're going to, and you will still have tests, but we're not here to teach you human resources. We're here to prepare you to take a very challenging exam, which is different, right? Because you have to look at, it's just a different prep. And Crystal, jump in at any time. Being in a test prep course while you're going through the materials, you are the driver of how much time you're going to invest, because for the next 12 weeks, really this becomes your life. There's a lot of reading, a lot of materials, and then as we get halfway through the class, we'll start going back and reviewing past areas so that that information stays fresh while you're studying new material. So it's a little different than just sitting through a normal class where you're just progressing through a particular module. To let you know, we do Thursday night starting August 23rd. We run 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And I find that this works better because most of us HR practitioners, by the time we get to class, we put in a full day, that by 8 o'clock, we are shutting down. Our brains are like, I'm done, I can't handle anymore. So 8:30 is a nice cutoff date. There will not be class on September 6th, but there will be a study group assignment. One of the things I like to make sure is that if you pick an area where you're the weakest at and allow students to do some presentations so that you're not listening to me talk the entire time. And again, this course is held at the office, the UC Davis extension on K Street.
Great, thanks, Julie. Yeah, and I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about the materials that we use for the class. So the materials we use are from a company called Bench Prep HR, and all of your materials are online. There will be practice quizzes that you can take online, videos to listen to online. You'll do your tests through this system online that Julie will have access to so she can see your progress as we go throughout the quarter and the course. You will purchase the materials on your own, so materials do not come as part of the class, but we will provide you with the link as to where to purchase the materials and a discount code. So you get a UC Davis discount for when you're ready to purchase the materials. We have not sent that link out yet because, as Julie just talked about, there were some updates to the SPHR and the PHR exams, and Bench Prep has been updating their materials to reflect all of those changes. They have now finished. They have a newly updated course. What you will do is you will decide if you want SPHR materials or PHR materials, and you will purchase whichever materials you're planning to test for, and then you will go through the class with those materials. I've been promised by Bench Prep that if like say a couple weeks into the course, maybe you buy SPHR materials and a few weeks into the course you realize, man, I should really be taking PHR and I wish I had those materials, that they will switch the materials for you to PHR materials. So there is some flexibility at the beginning of the quarter. Also, what I think is really great to know is that the materials live with you after the class. So Bench Prep has committed to us that even though the class ends, your access doesn't end, and that you will have access to the materials until you successfully complete the exam. So if you, I think they automatically give you access for a year, and then after a year, say, you know, you're about a year and a half, you take the exam, which most people take it directly after the test prep course because everything's fresh in your mind. But some people, life happens, they couldn't take the exam and they need to delay that. And so you can contact Bench Prep and ask them to extend your access, and they will do that for you. So that's a really nice benefit. Another nice benefit for having these online materials is that they have a mobile app. So you can access all of the information on the go. Within this information, within the Bench Prep HR system, it sort of breaks it down, and you have your lesson plans right here in this system, and your lessons are your book. They break it down by topics, and you have all of the content there. So from your smartphone device or you know, a tablet or a computer, you can access on the go all of your reading materials. And also, what I think is a cool idea is, I remember last quarter someone saying that every time they were in the car, they wanted to reinforce the information. So they would turn on like the videos that they have that give you information about the content, and they would just let the audio play while they were in the car, so that everywhere they were going, they were constantly reinforcing that information in their mind. So there's a lot of flexibility with this online system as to how you can use it to work best for you. Since the materials are online, I know our class is starting in just a couple weeks, but the nice thing about the online materials is that it takes no time to ship. Since when you buy it, purchase it online, you get access immediately. So we'll be sending the link and the discount code next week to all of our current students. And then for those of you who are considering this test prep class, we'll be adding the link to purchase materials and the discount code in the enrollment confirmation. So once you sign up for the class, you'll get an email immediately on where to purchase the materials and the discount code. So you have all that information right at your fingertips. Let's see. I think that covers everything that I had wanted to cover on the online materials. And Julie, then it's back to you for a little bit of information about study time.
Great. Yeah, one of the things I want folks to be able to properly plan for with this course is you're going to be reading about 10 hours a week, if not a little bit more. That's just the reading. Then you have videos to look at. You have terms to memorize. That it's a lot more than just reading a couple of chapters. Also, being upfront and honest and transparent, it's not always the funnest read because it might be legalese. It's kind of dry. It's pretty matter of fact. The videos help reinforce, but I just want to make sure everyone understands it is a big commitment of your studying, and if you get behind, it can be a challenge to struggle. So if you need to miss 1 or 2 classes through that 12-week period, that's probably the most that you want to miss. And if you do have to, because work gets in the way, life gets in the way, make sure that you're sticking with your study plan so that your reading does not fall behind. Your study groups might be a couple hours a week, depending on how often you and the group choose to get together, and we'll form study groups the first night of class.
Great, and I just want to add in that if you, as we're going through this information, I should have probably mentioned it at the beginning, but if you have questions, like, please feel free to collect those. There's a Q&A box. You can start putting them in there. We are going to have a time at the end of the session for questions and answers. So feel free to start putting questions in our question bank for us. So when we get to that, we can start answering your questions. Again, as we go along, if you have questions for either myself, Crystal, Julie, the instructor, or Kari, who we're going to hear from in just a moment, feel free to start padding those questions, and you can add that they're directed to a specific person if you want, or just leave them kind of open-ended, and we'll ask whoever we think is the best fit for that question. All right. So in preparing for this information session, I did some follow-up with the students that took this class last August, and I am pleased to report that 100% of the students who responded to my email and took the test passed the PHR exam. So I feel great that this is a good class to really prepare you for this very difficult exam. But sometimes it can be nice to hear from someone who's been in it and gone through it and done it. So Kari Harn, she's a personnel analyst with the Sacramento County, went through our last offering of this class, so she used the bench prep materials, and she passed her exam December of 2017. Congratulations, Kari.
Thank you.
And we're really excited to have you with us here today. Kari has offered to let me ask her a few questions and to give us a little perspective on what it was like to be a student, both in the class and going to take that HRCI exam. Hi, Kari.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about your background in HR before you joined the class.
Before joining the class, I had about 4 years of HR experience in the public sector, primarily working with the hiring and onboarding process. I had also just completed the HR certificate program through the extension. My bachelor's degree was not in HR or business, so I wanted to go through that program first. And I knew the next step for me was that I wanted to test for the PHR. And I thought that taking a course like this would be the best way to kind of hold myself accountable and learn. So the idea of taking the test can be overwhelming. I felt like I wanted all the help I could get, and I had really enjoyed the environment of all the other courses I had taken through the extension. So I knew that taking this PHR prep course was the right choice for me.
Great, thank you. And just as out of curiosity, while you were in the class, what did you find most valuable about that test prep class environment?
I think that one thing that's extremely valuable is just learning from the other HR professionals who have a different HR background. It's really great to have a group of people to study with, to bounce your questions off of. And as Julie mentioned, we formed study groups the first day of class. That was very helpful. One of my study buddies worked in compliance, which is an area that I had no experience in. So I remember during one of the study sessions, she just kind of gave us like her own little lesson, which really just helped the information stick, kind of having those real world examples.
Yeah, awesome.
And then as well as just having those people to kind of vent with as you're going through the process of studying. You know, you're going to get frustrated at times, and it's kind of nice just to have that support group.
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective. I think that's a really great piece about our class, is having different people with different focuses in HR and being able to come together and with shared knowledge. So thank you for adding that in. So the people on this information session are about to go through the class or are considering going through the class. So if you had sort of one thing that you know now that you wish you had known before you took either our course or the exam, do you have any like little nugget of advice for those online?
Yeah, so one thing I wish I had known when I went to take the test is about the bench prep learning system. I really enjoyed the system because I was able to use the app and just kind of have it with me at all times. But I felt like the questions that you answer through bench prep are actually a lot more specific and challenging than the questions that I saw on the exam. which is great because they're kind of trying to over prepare you and make sure that you have all that knowledge going into the exam. But I think it also caused some of us in the study group a little bit of anxiety, thinking, well, you know, I don't feel like I'm doing well enough on these study tests. So looking at it in hindsight, I realize now that the system really almost over prepares you. And so if you're consistent with your studying and using the system, then you should be really prepared to answer the questions on the exam.
That's really good to know. Thank you. And then, you know, you did talk a little bit about your experience in the class and what led you to the class. I'd love to know a little bit about your experience when taking the test. If you have any information you can give on what it was like to take the test and through that process.
Yeah, test day is very nerve-wracking. I know that Julie will share a lot of great tips with you to prepare you for it, so you'll really know what to expect that day. But it still feels like a really sort of intense and formal process, and I was definitely nervous on the exam day. You go into a quiet room with other test takers. They're testing for all kinds of things, and everyone's sort of starting and ending at different times, so that can be distracting. So it's good just to kind of prepare yourself for what that's going to be like. But I just tried to stay focused on my own computer and my own exam. And, you know, once you take some deep breaths and calm your nerves and stay focused on what you know, you can kind of get into a flow and tune out the distractions, and you'll get through it.
And then I'm curious, how long after your test did you receive the results?
So you actually receive like a preliminary result within about 3 minutes on test day after you submit it. And, you know, they say that that's preliminary and not finalized, but it gave me my passing result right then and nothing changed. And I think Julie can speak more to that, but I think that, you know, it would be rare that it changed when they go through their audit process or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's nice then. At least after you take the test, you don't have then an anxiety of waiting for results.
Right. It's kind of a relief as soon as that screen comes up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you being here online with us and giving your perspective. And for those of you listening in online, Kari's agreed to stay with us through our Q&A. So if you have questions for Kari about either the course or the materials or the test itself, the exam itself, feel free to put those into our Q&A bank. We are collecting your questions. They are starting to come in. And we have plenty of time for questions and answers. So we are going to hang online for a while to make sure that we answer everyone's questions. So feel free to put those in right now. Before we get to questions, I did want to talk a little bit about discounts, just so that you know what your options are. If you enroll at least 2 weeks before the class starts, we have a $50 early enroll discount that you're eligible for. So just by signing up at least 2 weeks early, you get a $50 off discount. So that's great, a great savings, easy to get. Also, if you or your organization are a member of SARA, SHRM, SEAC, you can get a 10% discount, which is a really nice discount. If you are a UC Davis alumni and a paid member of the Cal Aggie Association, you're eligible for a 10% discount. And if you're taking this, maybe your company is paying for you to take it, and there's a group of people within your HR department that you think would all benefit, get them together, rally a group, because if you get a group of 3 or more to join the program at the same time, you get a 10% discount. So that is wonderful. And finally, if you're a UC Davis staff member, contact Heather and I, or when you enroll through Student Services, let them know that you're a UC Davis staff member. There's a staff discount. So. If you are looking to finance your education, I wanted to just quickly mention that we do have a woman. Her name's Diane Carr. She works in our Student Services office, and she works with students who need to secure a personal loan to pay for the program fees. She also works with veterans receiving funding through the GI Bill, and students getting funding through other government funding sources such as WIA funding. So if any of those sound like something you would need or want to explore, feel free to talk to Diane. So that kind of leads us into our Q&A. You have full reign of myself, Julie, the instructor, and Kari. We are all here for you. And Heather is going to help facilitate all of the questions and read the questions and then throw them to whomever they go to. So,
Sure.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, we've got a few that have come in already. I've got one asking about, saying I work full time. So am I going to be able to handle balancing the class and the study time with my full-time work?
Great, yeah. And all of our courses and programs are built for full-time working professionals, which is why these courses are in the evenings, weekday evenings, so that it doesn't interfere with the normal work day. But maybe Kari, would you mind jumping in on that? You worked full-time during the course, I'm assuming. And so how was that, balancing that and then, personal life and the class with homework and study groups? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I was working full-time during the course. So those Wednesday evenings are busy. You go straight over to class afterwards. And then it's, I think, helpful to kind of, know going in that you're going to need to devote some time and kind of schedule that time for yourself so that it's a commitment that you have to meet. So for me, with my study group, we decided to meet on Sunday afternoons. So that's just what worked with our schedules, and we'd meet for about 2 hours that day. And so then I knew, I would have to spend some time on my own, maybe after work, maybe on my lunch break, doing some reading to stay up to date with that. So I think if you are committed to it, then it's definitely doable.
Great, thank you. And Julie, is there anything that you would like to add on that, or?
No, Kari's got it covered very nicely. It is doable, but you need to create your plan and work your plan and stick with it because it is a lot.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Kari, you'd mentioned the study groups. Do you recall what the study group size is, or Julie, what you plan on having the size of the groups?
So I think study group sizes are they can be whatever works out. So we assigned folks that worked better in a geographical area, whether it be, where they lived or where they worked. We've had them as small as just be 2 people, and then they've been as large as 6. It really depends on the groups themselves.
Yeah, my group had about 6 to start with, and it was really overwhelming trying to find a time that worked for everyone. And so we just kind of naturally split off into 2 groups. So I ended up working with 2 other people regularly.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we had another question about the different backgrounds that folks bring to the class as far as their HR background. Did you split up your study groups sort of at all based on the backgrounds, or was it kind of random?
So
it was
really
more
random, and we started
area.
with taking a look at where people worked and then where they lived. So we looked from a geographical standpoint. But it's really, that first night is getting to know each other a little bit and then breaking off and then determining, what is going to be best for each study group. Because you never really know who all is going to be in the class. And so if you have, let's just say for grins and giggles, you have 6 study groups, I can't guarantee that there's going to be somebody in each of those study groups that has the same or different backgrounds. So it's hard to say. They just kind of naturally morph together. And sometimes people get into one study group, like Kari said, and then they branch off because there's a myriad of reasons why. I've had other groups that have had 6 that have stuck all the way through together. They would meet at lunchtime just because where they geographically work.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Julie, we had another student ask, have we had folks go through, do you know, who haven't had a background in HR before coming to this course?
Most people that are in the HR field attend this course. It's very rare for me to have someone in the class that does not have HR experience.
Okay, so most folks have already been working in the field in one way or another.
Yes.
And Julie, if someone was interested in the APHR, what would you recommend to them? I mean, would this course still be helpful, or just by having a little bit of HR education, would they want to just do the APHR sort of outside of this course?
So no, this course is very applicable whether you're taking the APHR, PHR, SPHR. In fact, a couple of years ago, we had one individual who was a manager. She wasn't in HR per se, but she did a lot of the HR function for her organization. Mm-hmm. She found out after taking the course that she didn't qualify for the PHR, which is why another reason we're having this discussion is you really need to make sure that you double check with HRCI when you apply. They're going to ask you for your resume and information. So what she did was she took the APHR. That was the first year that it had come out, and she was able to successfully pass, no problem.
Okay, that's great. As far as the exam goes, somebody was wondering, what if you don't pass the first time? Do you get a couple second chances?
If you sign up for it. So the PHR, SPHR, they all allow you to sign up for what's called an insurance class, so that if you don't pass, you have the opportunity to take it a second time.
Okay. So, and that's without
and so let's just say you decide you don't want to take that additional insurance. If you don't pass, you can take it again. The pass rate for these, the PHR and SPHR, are in the 50% range. So to Kari's point, I really hone in over the importance of your studying, and that they are the toughest exams you will ever take, because you don't know how which questions you're going to get. You're studying the material, and there's a lot of material that you'll look at and go, they never asked me about this, because they're random questions that come through. So just know that if you choose not to take the additional insurance for another exam, you'll just end up having to pay for the full test over again. But you can retake the test.
Kari, I'm curious, did you sign up for the insurance one or no?
I did not sign up for the insurance. It is like an additional fee, so if you want to pay for that up front, you can. But I decided to just go for it for the one try, and it worked out. So.
All right. Julie, do you know, are the cost of the exams different depending on which exam you're taking? Do we know approximately what the cost is, or is that something we can look up online later?
You can look up online. I am thinking it's somewhere, the test, I want to say it's like $395. And it doesn't matter which exam you're taking, the costs are the same.
Okay. Let's see. We've got a few in here.
I see one that I can answer if you don't mind, Heather.
Please.
Okay. There was a question, does UC Davis offer the PHR California classes? So we used to offer a test prep class for the California exam, but to be honest, we had very low enrollment. It's not as widely taken, or it's just not as popular. And so we did cancel the class a few times just due to low enrollment. And the SPHR PHR test prep class has always been full, very popular and full. So we've just continued on with that. So I don't see any time in our near future we will be offering the California exam test prep.
Excellent.
But I will put a plug in there. If you are looking to take the California test, if you're a member of SARA, we just finished one. They'll be offering it again next year.
Yes, thank you, Julie, for mentioning that. Thank you. Perfect.
But another question about the offerings of this course and when the next offering will be, and I believe that would be within a year, correct?
At the moment, we have this class scheduled to be offered once a year. I'm hoping to expand that to twice a year, but Julie and I shouldn't mention that on a recorded information session because we haven't discussed when a second date would be or anything like that. So at this moment in time, we only have once a year planned. However, I do have hopes for offering a second session in the future, potentially like spring of next year. So we're sort of between winter and spring of 2019 could possibly be a second offering. Yeah.
Okay. I have someone with a question. What if I'm signed up for the PHR, but I want to change to the APHR? And I'm not sure if that's referring to the exam itself, if you can change which exam you'd like to take, or if they're speaking to the materials. Julie, do you know if your exam?
If you're going through and you feel like, ooh, I need to change, it's just a matter of making a phone call to HRCI.
Perfect.
And in fact, they're really helpful at walking you through making sure that you also select the one that you're most eligible for.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, and I mentioned the materials through bench prep learning being a PHR or SPHR, and you have to decide. And they do have an APHR as well. I'm sorry that I didn't mention that. So when we provide the link to purchase the materials, you'll have the choice to purchase APHR, PHR, or SPHR materials. You'll use our UC Davis discount code to give you our student discount for those materials.
Excellent. And speaking of cost, do we have parking, and what does it cost?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our classroom location is located in the Midtown Sacramento area, just off of K Street. So not in Davis, though we are UC Davis. It's our Sacramento classroom location. And attached to that building is a parking garage. So you just park, you can park in that parking garage, and we validate your parking. So your parking will only cost $3, and it's for the day. It brings your parking cost down to $3 for the day. So if you guys want to do study groups before the class, or you want to come early and study or do some reading, you have access to come into the building early, and you can validate your parking, and then it does bring it down to $3 for the day. So as long as you're there. And it's, yeah.
That's great. I've got one more asking about the geographical, as far as study groups go, mentioning that they live an hour away. Julie, do you know what kind of range people have come from for this class in the past?
Most of them are in the general Sacramento metropolitan area. However, I have had folks as far from Vacaville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's been a couple that have come up from that general area.
Julie, last quarter we had someone travel from Chico, remember?
Yes.
And that was quite a drive. We were all like jaws dropped when they did introductions. Yeah. And she said she was driving from Chico every week.
She drove from Chico to come to the session. So I don't remember which group, or that may have been someone that said, hey, look, I'm down in this area because this is where I work. And a lot of folks choose to meet on a weekend, on a Saturday or Sunday, just because it's a day where they can focus and just feels clear, and the study groups can make it as relaxing as they want, or as intense as they need it to be.
Mm-hmm. Great. And does that cover most of our questions, Heather?
Yep, we've got one more that looks like a great question to go ahead and address. What if you have a scheduling conflict and you need to miss class, potentially you're missing 3 classes? Is that going to be something that is doable, or?
Yeah, so just quickly from an administrative perspective, we usually say that, we know people are human and life happens. And so if you miss a class, your child's sick or you got stuck at work and you couldn't leave, it's not a problem. We expect that students will miss a class here and there. But for this class specifically, it's very important that even if you miss class, you keep up on your readings and your assignments that you'll have listed in your syllabus through the BenchPrep learning system so that you stay up on all of those assignments and readings. But if you are going into this test prep course, I know it's 12 weeks, but already knowing that you have, say, 3 scheduling conflicts and you're potentially going to miss as many as 3 classes, I would say maybe think about taking it the next time we offer it, because that's a lot of content to miss. And you're, not setting yourself up for success from the very beginning. So do be conscientious about that. If there's one night you're going to have to miss class, you just let your instructor know in advance. It's not a problem. I'm sure I'm speaking for Julie when I say that. But if you're going to miss a lot of classes, that this could be a problem for you, I would say that you're not going to get the most benefit out of the class. Julie, is there anything you'd like to add?
And I'm always available to walk through and either before class or after. Another reason why we keep the 5:30 to 8:30 to answer questions or do some one-on-one if necessary. Also, I make myself available to study groups if they say, look, we'd like to have you come join us. I've done that as well. The goal is to make sure that everyone successfully passes the test with as much knowledge as they can have in their pockets and their brain.
Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of the session. So I definitely want to thank Kari, our alumni who went through the class and offered to join us online today, for being part of this information session. Thank you so very much, Kari.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, thank our instructor, Julie Worley, for being online with us today and giving us all that information. We hope that giving you some of this information before you get into the classroom setting was helpful for you. We have recorded this session, so we will send out a link to the recording. If there's something you wanted to see or hear again, feel free to go back. If you know anyone that might be interested in taking this course with you, it could be nice to have a buddy. Feel free to forward and share the link to the recording we'll be sending out. And if you have any additional questions that you think of after the information session ends, oh gosh, I should have asked this question, just feel free to call or email Heather or I. We're happy to help. We can get you in touch with Julie if you have a specific question for Julie. So not a problem. Feel free to contact us. And with that, we'd just like to thank you all for being here online, and we look forward to seeing you in class on August 23rd. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.